Most people move through life half asleep, not because they lack intelligence, but because the world was designed to keep them distracted, obedient, and unaware of how power truly works. From a young age, we're taught to follow rules, to seek approval, to fit into systems created long before we were born. But no one teaches us the mechanics of influence, the psychology behind control, or the invisible forces shaping every decision we make. This video is the crack in that illusion. Today, we enter the mind of Machiavelli, a thinker feared, banned, and misunderstood for centuries. Not because he was evil, but because he revealed the truths the elites never wanted ordinary people to understand. Truths that, once learned, make a person clear-eyed, untouchable, and dangerously smart. Machiavelli didn't sugarcoat humanity because he knew that comfort protects ignorance, and ignorance protects the powerful. He stripped away illusions and forced us to confront something most people spend their entire lives avoiding. The truth about how humans actually behave, not how we wish they were, not how society teaches us to pretend, but how they truly operate beneath the surface. He observed that people rarely act from logic. Logic is the mask, emotion is the engine. Fear, admiration, insecurity, desire, envy, hope, these forces shape decisions far more than rational thought ever will. A person may believe they are reasoning, but in reality, they are justifying impulses that were already there, impulses planted by instinct, shaped by survival, and amplified by ego. And this is why so many people misread the world. They assume others think like they do. They expect fairness, they expect reciprocity, they expect clarity. But Machiavelli understood that expectation is the birthplace of disappointment. People admire strength, even when they deny it. They respect confidence, even when they claim to hate arrogance. They are drawn to certainty, even when it scares them. And they fear unpredictability, because unpredictability disrupts the fragile illusion of control they cling to. Once you grasp this, something shifts inside you. You stop taking reactions personally. You stop assuming that others' behavior is a reflection of your worth. Instead, you see the patterns repeating like a hidden rhythm underneath human interaction. You notice how quickly admiration turns to resentment when your progress threatens someone's comfort. You see how often people project their fears onto others. You recognize how easily crowds can be influenced by whoever speaks with the most conviction, whether or not they speak the truth. Understanding this doesn't make you cynical, it makes you awake. You begin to see motivations where others only see words. You see insecurity disguised as anger. You see weakness masquerading as moral superiority. You see how often people choose convenience over courage, appearance over substance, and safety over truth. Machiavelli believed that when you understand human nature, you gain something rare, the ability to navigate life without being destabilized by it. You stop expecting honesty from the dishonest, loyalty from the disloyal, depth from the shallow. You start responding to reality instead of reacting to illusions. And slowly, your perception becomes something sharper, something others can easily manipulate. Most people remain blind because they assume complexity where there is simplicity. They believe there must be a grand explanation behind every action, when in reality, most behavior is rooted in primal emotion, primitive desire, and habitual fear. But once you learn to see through it, once you stop hearing merely what people say and start observing what they reveal, you step into a higher level of awareness. This is the power Machiavelli tried to teach, not to distrust everyone, but to understand everyone, to see the mechanism behind the mask, to walk through the world without being fooled by appearances, to read intentions the way others read words. And when you finally recognize the patterns, you stop playing the game blindly. You start playing it consciously. And that is when you become someone the world can no longer mislead. Machiavelli taught one rule that separates masters from victims, a rule so simple that most people underestimate its power. Those who control their impulses control their destiny. In a world where everyone is reacting instantly, emotionally, blindly, the one who pauses, observes, and chooses becomes untouchable. Because while others are slaves to the chaos within them, the strategist moves with intention. Most people live on autopilot. They defend themselves before thinking. They speak before understanding. They cling to pride, ego, fear, anger, and call it authenticity. But Machiavelli understood a truth that few can swallow. Impulse is not freedom. Impulse is a chain. It binds you to your weakest moments, making you predictable, manipulable, and easy to defeat. Anyone who knows your triggers owns your actions. The powerful know this. They rarely act instantly. They rarely show their internal storms. Instead, they observe, quietly, patiently, because reaction belongs to the emotional, but response belongs to the strategic. And strategy is the difference between a life shaped by circumstance and a life shaped by choice. When you stop moving emotionally, something remarkable happens inside you. The noise settles, the vision sharpens. You begin to see the landscape of your life not as a battlefield where you swing blindly, but as a chessboard where every move carries weight. You start noticing opportunities that impulsive people trample past. You recognize traps that others rush into, and you understand that silence is often more powerful than argument, and waiting is often stronger than attacking. Strategy is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the discipline to ask, what outcome do I want before doing anything? It is the wisdom to delay gratification, to resist provocation, to stay composed while others crumble under their own reactions. Machiavelli believed that true intelligence isn't measured by how fast you respond, but by how accurately you respond. Speed is useless if it leads you in the wrong direction. Every impulsive decision carries a hidden cost: reputation, opportunity, respect, energy. Every strategic decision carries a hidden reward: leverage, influence, freedom, longevity. The difference between the two is not luck, it's control. Control over your mind, control over your emotions, control over the story you tell through your actions. Most people confuse movement with progress. They confuse noise with power. They confuse emotional expression with strength. But the strategist knows that the loudest person in the room is rarely the one in control, the one who can remain centered while others lose themselves. That is the person who influences outcomes. And this is why Machiavelli's teachings disturb people. They force you to confront the truth that your worst enemy is not the world, but your own lack of discipline. They expose how often you sabotage yourself by acting too quickly or speaking too soon. They reveal the painful reality that many defeats in life are self-inflicted, but they also reveal something liberating. If your impulses are the prison, then your strategy is the key. When you begin to master yourself, your reactions, your desires, your fear of silence, you become someone others cannot predict. And unpredictability, controlled and deliberate, is a form of power that terrifies manipulators. It removes their ability to steer you. It forces them to adjust to you. The moment you stop acting from emotion and begin acting from intention, the world stops happening to you and starts responding to you. You stop surviving and start shaping. You stop chasing outcomes and start choosing them. This is the quiet, lethal strength Machiavelli wanted you to understand, because destiny is not written by the fastest, nor the loudest, nor the most emotional. Destiny is written by the one who learns to wait, to think, to move with purpose. And once you embody this, you don't just become smarter, you become dangerous. The world does not reward innocence. It rewards awareness. This was one of Machiavelli's hardest truths, one that polite society refuses to accept. We are taught from childhood that goodness alone protects us, that purity of intention shields us from harm, that if we simply do the right thing, life will repay us with fairness. But Machiavelli looked at the world as it is, not as we wish it to be, and he understood something uncomfortable. Goodness without strength is a liability. Being good is admirable. Being naive is dangerous. Machiavelli never told you to be cruel. He never celebrated manipulation for pleasure. What he taught was far more important. Be capable. Be someone who can defend your boundaries, who can see deception before it reaches you, who can recognize danger without collapsing into fear. Kindness is beautiful, but kindness without awareness invites exploitation. Compassion without discernment becomes self-destruction. The truth is, predators do not look for evil people to harm. They look for unguarded ones. They look for those who automatically trust, who automatically forgive, who automatically assume the best. Innocence signals vulnerability. It tells the world you have not yet learned its language. And Machiavelli's lesson was simple. Learn it. Learn how people operate. Learn what motivates them, what deceives them, what drives their choices. Awareness is not negativity, it is protection. To be gentle by choice, not because you're too weak to be anything else, is what makes you dangerous. True virtue is strength wrapped in restraint. It is the ability to act fiercely, yet choosing not to. It is the ability to retaliate, yet deciding when it is wise to remain silent. Power is not the absence of mercy. It is the freedom to express it without fear of being crushed. Machiavelli believed that a person who understands both light and shadow becomes whole. Someone who knows how to navigate conflict, how to stand firm, how to face intimidation without folding, is far more trustworthy than the one who has never confronted adversity, because the untested are unpredictable. They do not know their limits. They crumble under pressure because they have never learned to stand. The world often misinterprets this philosophy as darkness, but it is simply realism. It is acknowledging that humans are complex, that motives clash, that interests compete, that life will challenge you whether you are prepared or not. Innocence does not survive these challenges. Capability does. The dangerous person is not the one who chooses cruelty. It's the one who understands cruelty, yet chooses mastery. A dangerous person is calm when others panic, confident when others seek approval, steady when others act out of fear. They don't need to dominate because they control themselves so deeply that no one else can dominate them. Being good is a beautiful ideal, but goodness must be paired with strength. Otherwise, it becomes fragility disguised as virtue. Many people cling to innocence because they are afraid of their own power, afraid of what they might become if they acknowledge their darker instincts. But suppressing your strength does not make you moral. It makes you vulnerable. Awareness does not corrupt you. Awareness frees you. When you understand human nature, when you recognize manipulation, when you sense hidden intentions, you gain a form of peace that innocence could never give. You are no longer blindsided. You are no longer easily influenced. You are no longer living at the mercy of other people's choices. And that is why Machiavelli's teachings endure. They empower the individual. The world does not reward those who hope. It rewards those who see. The world does not protect those who close their eyes. It protects those who open them. Goodness becomes powerful only when it is paired with capability. And capability becomes dangerous only when guided by wisdom. When you can be strong but choose gentleness. When you can see the darkness yet walk toward the light. When you can defend yourself without becoming hardened. That is when you become someone the world cannot break. That is when goodness becomes unshakable. That is when you become truly dangerous. Power isn't about domination, it's about positioning. Most people imagine power as force, noise, intimidation, something loud and dramatic. But Machiavelli understood the opposite. True power moves quietly. It does not shout. It does not demand. It does not seek validation. It simply places itself where it cannot be ignored. And once you learn this, life becomes less about fighting and more about arranging yourself so the world has no choice but to respond. Positioning means standing where opportunities naturally flow to you, not chasing approval, not begging for recognition, not running after people or situations that drain you. Instead, you build yourself, establish your value, strengthen your presence, so that what is meant for you gravitates in your direction. You become the center of gravity rather than the one orbiting around others. Machiavelli believed that strategy begins long before action. It begins with silence, silence that observes, measures, evaluates. While most people broadcast their desires, fears, plans, and weaknesses to the world, the strategist hides their intentions. Not out of paranoia, but out of wisdom. What others don't know, they can't sabotage. What they can't predict, they can't control. And what they can't see coming, they can't stop revealing. Only what strengthens you is a discipline. It means showing confidence, but not insecurity. Showing capability, but not desperation. Showing progress, but not the entire map. People respect what they do not fully understand. They are drawn to mystery. They sense depth, potential, and strength in those who speak selectively and move intentionally. And this is where positioning becomes an art. You don't win by being the loudest voice in the room. You win by being the one everyone watches without understanding why. You win by being the calm force that influences the environment without needing recognition. You win by creating conditions where others choose in your favor because it benefits them. Even if they never realize you guided them to that choice, Machiavelli knew that influence is far more powerful than authority. Authority commands. Influence directs. Authority requires presence. Influence works even in your absence. Authority forces obedience. Influence shapes desire. And positioning is the foundation of influence. It ensures that the world sees you as someone worth listening to, following, or fearing, not because you demanded it, but because your presence makes it undeniable. The strategist puts themselves in environments that elevate them. They build alliances that multiply their reach. They maintain distance when necessary to preserve mystique. They step forward only at decisive moments when the impact is greatest. Every move is intentional. Every silence is calculated. Every appearance is meaningful. There is no wasted motion. Most people lose because they rush toward everything they want. They expose themselves, dilute their power, and burn their energy chasing. The powerful don't chase, they attract, they position, they shape circumstances so subtly that others believe the outcome was their own idea, and that is the highest form of control. To master positioning, you must also master restraint. You must resist the urge to explain yourself, defend your every step, or seek immediate results. You must learn to let others underestimate you until the moment their assumptions become your advantage. You must learn to value timing more than speed, perception more than reaction. Remember, a single well-placed move is worth more than 100 frantic actions. And in the end, the one pulling the strings behind silence always wins. Not because they are cruel, but because they are deliberate. Not because they dominate, but because they understand leverage. Not because they speak loudly, but because they know when to say nothing. Position yourself wisely, and the world will move around you. Position yourself intelligently, and opportunities will bend to your presence. Position yourself quietly, and your influence will echo louder than any words. That is the art Machiavelli tried to teach, and mastering it is what makes you unstoppable. Machiavelli believed that fortune favors the bold, but not the reckless bold, not the impulsively bold. He meant the prepared bold, the kind of person who studies themselves the way a commander studies their army, who understands their strengths with clarity and their weaknesses without shame, who walks through life not as a wanderer, but as a builder of outcomes. Most people drift. They wait for circumstances to improve. They hope opportunities will appear. They rely on luck, timing, or the goodwill of others. But Machiavelli understood that luck favors those who shape conditions, who think ahead, who move before they are forced to move. Life bends for the individual who acts with intention. Becoming the architect of your life begins with self-knowledge, not the shallow kind, the likes and dislikes, but the deeper, uncomfortable, confronting kind. What are you truly capable of? What do you fear? What patterns do you repeat? What strengths do you underestimate? What dreams do you postpone because you're afraid to fail publicly? When you stop lying to yourself, you stop living at the mercy of everything around you. Predicting outcomes does not mean controlling the world. It means understanding the mechanics of cause and effect. When you learn how people behave, how environments function, how decisions ripple into consequences, you stop being surprised by everything that happens. Most people are shocked by predictable events. A relationship falling apart, a job becoming stagnant, a friend turning distant, a plan collapsing under poor preparation. The architect, however, reads the signs early. The architect watches patterns. The architect anticipates outcomes long before they unfold. This is not pessimism, it is mastery. And mastery is the difference between surviving and shaping. Surviving is reactive, shaping is deliberate. When you act with intention, suddenly you realize how many parts of your life were running on autopilot. Your habits, your reactions, your ambitions, your relationships. You begin choosing instead of drifting. You begin directing instead of adapting. You begin building instead of waiting. Machiavelli believed that most people fail, not because they lack talent, but because they lack alignment. Their actions do not match their aims. They chase goals while carrying the behaviors of someone who expects to lose. They want change while repeating the same routines. They want power while fearing discomfort. But when you become the architect, you align every part of yourself with the life you want. Your habits follow your vision. Your decisions follow your strategy. Your energy follows your purpose. You stop sabotaging yourself by walking in two directions at once. And slowly, something shifts. The world no longer feels random. Your future no longer feels distant. Your choices begin to compound. People begin to respond to you differently, not because you manipulate them, but because you carry a presence shaped by clarity. You become someone with direction, with grounded confidence, with intention behind every step. Architects do not wait for permission. They do not wait for the right moment. They create the moment, they use what they have, then transform it into something greater. They choose boldness, not because they are fearless, but because they are prepared. And when preparation meets courage, life opens in ways that seem like fate, but are actually the result of invisible work, silent discipline, and the refusal to drift. When you understand your strengths, when you learn to predict outcomes, when you move with intention rather than emotion, you step into a version of yourself that does not merely exist inside the world, but reshapes it. You stop surviving, you start building, brick by brick, choice by choice, step by step. And in that moment, you become your own architect, not just of your future, but of your identity, your power, your destiny. If you reach this point, then something inside you has already shifted. You've seen the illusions, you felt the truth behind human nature, power, strategy, and self-mastery. And now you stand at a crossroads. Continue living by impulse and hope, or step forward with intention and clarity. Machiavelli didn't want followers. He wanted thinkers, individuals capable of shaping their own path, not waiting for the world to hand them one. You are no longer blind. You are no longer passive. You are no longer playing the game without seeing the board. From this moment on, walk with awareness, move with strategy, build with purpose, because the person who understands themselves cannot be controlled by anyone else. You are becoming dangerously smart, and this is just the beginning. If this message awakens something in you, if you want to go deeper into psychology, power, and the hidden architecture of the mind, then subscribe, join this journey. Sharpen your awareness, evolve your mind, because the smarter you become, the harder you are to manipulate. Stay aware, stay intentional, and stay dangerous.